Today's webinar is about getting buy-in from the frontline and shop floor for your operational excellence journey. Presenting the session today is Ross Kennedy. Ross is the president and founder of CTPM, a team of business improvement coaches. He is recognized as Australia's leading authority on total productive maintenance and CTPM's Australasian TPM and lean approach to operational excellence. So let's get started with today's session, and I'll now pass you over to Ross.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on getting buy-in from your frontline or shop floor for your operational excellence journey, or some people call it transformation. We've again like to thank our members for putting forward the topic for us, and hopefully over the next 30 minutes we can just cover off a number of key learnings to share with you about getting buy-in. We've broken it down into 4 parts today: the impact of workplace environment on behaviours, impact of prevention at source thinking, impact of ownership, and the impact of people development. So we'll try to put it into that framework. Now, as we approach these webinars, often it gives me an opportunity to reflect back on some of the training material we've used over the years to get different important messages across. And I came across one slide last night, which was out of our 2-day workshop that Nelson just spoke about, the introduction to Australasian TPM and lean, which that workshop we've been running now for over 20 years and updating and enhancing every time we run it. So the slide was, how do we get employees to contribute and participate? Because that's often a key question. And in that slide, we spoke about going and starting your journey. And the first thing you do is to tell everyone what the journey is you're going on and why and how and when and how it will happen. And the second thing is to give some education to those who are going to be involved, and typically as they get involved, and either through what we call a 1-day awareness or half-day overview. But what is of interest is probably the next 3 points was initially focus on changing the workplace environment to promote behaviour change. This next one was engaging employees to participate through emotive questioning rather than just telling them. And the third one was provide leadership support for employees by establishing and training effective frontline leaders and level 1 salary leaders such as supervisors. So if we just look at these 3 at the bottom, because I think the first one certainly covers off what we want to talk about, which is changing the environment. So initially focus on changing the workplace environment to promote behaviour change. I guess we've all want the whole idea of an operational excellence journey or transformation is to create a safe and productive workplace, world-class environment, and that has to do with the behaviour of your people, right? Also obviously the performance of your equipment and the effectiveness of your processes, but behaviour of your people becomes a pretty important part of it. And the reason Toyota have been so successful, is being the leading manufacturer in the world, is it's their people engagement and the behaviour of their people. As they say, what you expect from the Toyota worker, it's to come to work and be prepared to pull the cord, as in stop the line if the quality coming to them is not to the standard. In other words, be the front line for identifying problems. So it's all about the behaviour of your workforce. So when we look at behaviour, behaviour can be influenced by 2 main factors. The attitude of a person will have them want to behave a certain way. Also the environment, we've found, will have people, put people in a certain environment and they'll behave differently than a different environment. So let's just think about attitude for a moment. This is normally a long-term thing. It doesn't happen. You can't change someone's attitude overnight unless they go through a very, very traumatic emotional experience. Normally it's a series of experiences, relationships, knowledge, and development of skills to get people to start having different attitudes to behave differently. Now, we do that on the journey, improvement journey, by getting people involved in cross-functional teams, especially where you have a cross-functional team with people from different levels in the organisation, getting to experience working with, for example, an operator working with a manager, or an operator working with a maintenance person or a supervisor or whatever, and also the different functions. So cross-functional team activity can be a very good way to give people different experiences and build relationships up and increase the knowledge. And then once they get into area-based team improvement activity, the skills really start to become enhanced. So that's what the journey is all about, and that's the way we frame a journey, where we cascade it and we gradually get people involved and keep them doing those sort of things. But in the short term, it's the environment we've got to get right to promote all this. So things like the organisation structure, it's amazing how that is still such a big issue today, when we thought, since the literature's been out about what the best organisation structure is to get a sense of ownership, people still have this mindset of, oh, we want total flexibility, we want people to move around everywhere, we don't want frontline leaders being effective, we just have them everyone reporting to a supervisor, etc. So having the right organisation structure, which is very much, I'll talk about later, the model based from our learnings from Toyota, and what we've done in Australia in the last 20 years, is having, for example, production teams of 4 to 8 people max, including a dedicated frontline leader. Effective daily management, getting the day-to-day stuff right, addressing problems so they don't keep coming back again, stop them from happening again by reviewing, did we achieve our expectation the day before? And if we didn't, what do we need to do to stop it from happening again? So effective daily management is also, if we set it up correctly, is about developing our frontline leaders and developing our people. So it's excellent for developing communication, addressing problems at the earliest possible time, and developing frontline leaders. And again, that creates an environment where people are going to become a lot more engaged in wanting to get involved or get buy-in to improvement. Support for improvement. You need to create time. You can't just overload people with more work. So, for example, with maintenance staff, we use a time lost analysis approach to look at how much time is maintenance losing, how can we address that, how do we free their time up. From a time perspective for production, we go in and use cross-functional teams focusing on OEE and lifting OEE up 10-20%, and it frees up the time to stop the line to do improvement activities when you get that far into the journey. Having a place for everything, having its place and tools readily available. Again, people aren't wasting their time trying to find things, and having that discipline and communication between the shifts so everyone puts everything back where they should has a big impact on getting people's buy-in. Finally, not finally, but condition of equipment has another big impact. You start doing clean for inspections and people will start to have a lot more respect for the equipment, and they will pick up on problems while they're very early and easy and quick to fix. And finally, methods and systems. We can change our methods and systems. We need to change our methods and systems for TPM to work, for example. You have in traditional maintenance, you have a work order system, which is wonderful for maintenance. But when you get into TPM and you want operators to find problems at the earliest possible time, you want them fixed at the earliest possible time. So you've then got to create a parallel defect management system to support that. You can't put the defects through the work order system because they just won't get the priority, and people finding the defects will get disenchanted, disillusioned, and say, why bother? So there's a lot of things we can do to address the environment, and it's what I've seen is that's a lot easier to do and quicker to do than the longer term of trying to change people's attitudes. Okay, engaging employees to participate through emotive questioning. There's another key one. We want people to be involved. Improvement activity should not be voluntary. It should always be part of your job. And that's why you should always do it in normal time, not overtime. But to get people, rather than go and tell them, hey, we want you to go and tidy up the workplace, and we want you to go and create it, the old 5S model factory, you go to your workforce and say, do you ever get frustrated because you can't find something when you're about to do a task? And if the answer is yes, well, how about if we sort out the workplace so you can find everything you need at your fingertips? Would that make a better workplace? And you'll engage your people very quickly with emotive questioning rather than telling them they have to do 5S to make the factory look pretty for the boss to come past and be impressed. The other one is getting people involved in cross-functional improvement activity. Do you ever get frustrated because the equipment doesn't always work perfectly? You can ask that of an operator, a maintainer, a supervisor, a frontline leader, a planner, and the answer you'll probably get is yes in most cases. So let's get on a team and let's work at trying to improve the equipment so it doesn't frustrate us. Is a way of engaging people to get buy-in. And the last one was provide leadership support for employees by establishing and training effective frontline leaders and level 1 salary leaders. And there was a little booklet I'll refer to later, which I pulled out and updated just recently because, again, from a client, they haven't really embraced this idea of proper frontline leaders, and we're trying to help them out there. But the learning is, if your frontline leaders aren't properly trained and effective, everyone else in the leadership structure needs to work down a level, needs to become highly inefficient and not have time to support improvement activities. So everyone starts, the manager starts doing the supervisor's job, the supervisor starts doing what should be done by a frontline leader. And I was at a site recently where the supervisor, level 1 salary leader, was running around, couldn't attend an improvement team meeting because he had to train someone on the job. And I'm going, where's your frontline leaders? Why haven't you got proper frontline leaders to do the training and development of your people? Which they didn't have, and they're looking into. It can significantly hinder your ability to achieve your improvement vision, achieving operational excellence. Probably the message there. Okay, impact of prevention at source thinking. Well, the old Dr. Edward Deming, again, another one of the slides we used out of our 2-day workshop. Dr. Deming went over to Japan after the war and started teaching them the philosophy behind quality. Now, he taught them a lot of quality tools, obviously, about statistical process control, etc. But his main philosophies of quality were quite interesting. Focus on the process, not just the activity. So look at the whole process that you're trying to improve. Apply prevention at source for the process. In other words, find the problems at the earliest possible time and recognize the tyranny of time. And the tyranny of time is basically, very simply put, from the time when a problem occurs to the time you find it, the longer the time frame, the less likelihood you'll get to the root cause because the evidence decays. So it's all about finding problems at the earliest possible time. And this is where this slide comes from, the cost of product defects. Find them as they enter the process or as they enter your process. And this is why Toyota expect their workers to pull the cord. If what comes to them is not perfect, not right, not to standard, you don't process it and pass on the problems down the line. You stop, you pull the cord, you get it rectified. And that means you need good support. And that's where the frontline leaders' key role, support the operators to do that. If you don't have effective frontline leaders, that concept ain't going to work too well. So again, getting buy-in is about supporting the people as you ask them to do something. To ask them to focus on quality, you've got to give them the support. The third one was impact of ownership to address root cause of failures and problems. Again, pulled out a slide from the 2-day workshop, the cause of equipment failures and the 5 whys. So this is where we look at, okay, equipment fails. Now, this is predominantly talking about mechanical equipment here rather than electrical equipment, because electrical equipment sometimes just goes snuff and that's the end of it, like a light bulb just goes out, it doesn't show you any signs. But mechanical equipment is quite different. Often you'll get poor performance out of it, and before that you'll probably get some vibration or noise or heat or fumes, as in the motor starting to smell a bit and not perform. Now, why does that happen? Two reasons. One, either natural deterioration. In other words, you put the motor in or you put the pump in and or the bearing or whatever, and after it's expected to last for 10 years, and after 10 years it starts to wear down and goes through this failure process. The other thing that happens in the workplace too often is you get early accelerated deterioration. In other words, you put the pump in or you put the bearing in and you expect it to last for 10 years, but after 3 years it starts making horrible noises and starting to play up. Why is that? Well, we put it down to, and this is where the 5 whys come into it, either lack of understanding or desire to care. A classic example would be an operator grabbing airline or high pressure water hose to clean down equipment after the end of the shift. That just blasts contamination into the equipment and deteriorates it. Why do they do that? They either don't care or no one's ever taught them, and they just think, well, that's the airline sitting there, I might as well use it, and wonder why the life of the equipment deteriorates. So lack of care and understanding can be from operators, it can be from maintenance, people not having ownership to an area and therefore not taking the care. It can be designers, it can even be the purchasing people and the way you store things. It can affect the whole gamut of equipment. So how do we address it? Well, this is where ownership comes in, and so important. And we use a simple example of the company ute versus the manager's car. Company ute, driven by everyone, owned by no one, and the manager's car, still a company asset, but it's got perceived ownership because it's allocated to a person. And what you find is that the difference in the running costs and performance and the resale value of the two vehicles is often quite significant, and the only factor is the ownership element. And that's why when we look at the history of ownership in the workplace, back in the old days there was a sense of ownership, but we had a very traditionally structured, demarcated workplace, and we felt that wasn't good, so we moved across and initially went to a multi-skilling model where we wanted high flexibility, we can move people around and we get people to do multi-jobs, like, you know, operate the equipment, drive the forklift, etc. But what we found was very little ownership and maintenance costs went up, and quality losses went up as well significantly. So what we find is the best practice companies now have come back and got to what we call area-specific skills, flexibility within areas and area ownership, and again using teams of 4 to 8 with a dedicated frontline leader. So properly established production area-based teams create an ownership environment that has flexibility through base skills, ability to work all the workstations in the area across the team, and promote the development of mastery skills, which is prevention at source, visual workplace, problem solving, and team skills through the ongoing activities. So again, we can create, this is all about getting the structure right, changing the environment to get different behaviours. 4, impact of people development. So just talking about frontline leaders, operators and maintainers. Operations excellence can be approached organically, which is people development focused, or mechanistically, CI tool focused. This is where our learning has been, and the learning of Professor Jeffrey Leica in his book, The Toyota Way, or one of his books, is that the mechanistic approach just doesn't sustain. In other words, you go in and you use the tools and you get an improvement and you move on, and the energy level in the whole place just dies because the improvement stopped and everything goes back to the way it used to be. So we've learned that we need to achieve, we need to develop all your people so they are capable and motivated to take responsibility for their inputs. Again, pull the cord, make sure that the process is to the standard, That's where statistical process control and tools come in to help do that where appropriate, and to make sure they do not pass anything on to the next process that is not, again, to the standard. And even if you start looking at different literatures, Stephen Covey, the famous author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, also wrote, his next book was The 8th Habit, and in there he refers to it is the front line that creates the bottom line for a business. And so it's developing that frontline capability, that's your operators and your frontline leaders, is absolutely critical. And in a document we put together for a big multinational some years back, the more you continue to develop your people to problem solve, create a visual workplace so they're able to see problems at the earliest possible time and apply prevention at source to stop problems from occurring, the quicker your organization will be able to adapt and respond to an ever-changing market, or be more innovative and become a market leader. And these are some key learnings. So just talking about the development of people, you need the right structure. So again, we talk about 4 to 8, so you have your frontline leaders with 3 to 7 team members max. Otherwise, your frontline leaders, if they've got more than 7 people their experiences, they do not have time to develop them. They can have plenty of time to go and tell them what to do, but that's about all they'll be able to do. Make sure tasks get done, not develop the people, who can then pick up on the problems at the earliest possible time. And that's how you become world-class or achieve operational excellence. So you have layers, and we use the language of level 1 salary leaders, for example, rather than supervisor or coordinator, because you go to so many different sites have different language for different roles. So we try to keep it generic. But they're the levels. So let's just very quickly, again, taking out some of our literature and learnings from a lot of excellent books on lean and TPM. What do we expect from a team member? Well, perform required tasks to standard, right? So you've got to have a standard to support that. Support the achievements of the production plan in a safe, quality, cost-effective environment, sound way. Be an effective and contributing team member. Yep. Be actively involved in scientific problem solving, identifying and solving problems using a scientific method such as plan, do, check, act, rather than just working around problems. Being actively involved in creating visual workplace so that problems can be identified at the earliest possible time, and be actively involved in applying prevention at source so as to stop problems from occurring. Ultimately, what we want our team members to do, whether they be operators or maintainers or whatever. Now, frontline leaders, the wages role, what do we want them to do? Well, ensure required tasks for the team are completed to standard, ensure the achievement of the production plan, train and support team members in base skills, that's the ability to work all the workstations in the area, and team skills, how to work in a team environment. Teach, this is the key, teach the team members to be successful in scientific problem solving, teach the team members to be successful in visual workplace, and teach team members to apply prevention at source. So they've got to be teacher trainer, right? Is what your frontline leaders, we want them to be able to do. And obviously they've got to be coached by their level 1 salary people. So they've got to know how to teach and coach themselves so they can coach the frontline leaders. So we want them to provide frontline safety, human resource, engineering, maintenance and quality support, setting goals and allocate resources, teach and coach others to see problems, solve problems and build knowledge through ensuring clear expectations are established before initiating improvements, develop detailed knowledge of their equipment, machinery, process, teach it to others, create ample learning experiences by challenging standards to ensure work is done without delay, without waste and without strain of any kind, be integral to major improvements of the process, even introducing new products and processes. So there's some of the things that we want the supervisors to do, rather than just run around and make sure we get product out the door. If we want to be world-class, if we want to engage our people, if we want our people to feel, hey, we're part of this, we're being developed, we're being helped to grow. Okay, attributes of a frontline leader. I just thought I'd throw this one in because I think it's quite interesting. If you're going to go and start appointing any frontline leaders or developing frontline leaders or level 1 salary leaders, we want them to have a commitment to excellence if you want to be world-class, a willingness and desire to learn new ways of thinking, a willingness and desire to learn new ways of leading, seeing their role as one of developing their people and creating future leaders. In other words, a desire to be a good teacher, long-term thinker. Recognise that safety first is a given and that perfect quality and customer satisfaction are the most important focus of the company after safety. Understand and reinforce that quality is never sacrificed for cost or expediency. All right. Thing to remember here, we don't want to just appoint frontline leaders or level 1 salary leaders because of charisma. It's the ability to repeatedly demonstrate their capability on the job, understanding of work, understanding of TPM and lean thinking, good at getting to the root cause of problems. They're the people we're trying to develop to support the engagement of your people. And a quick one on maintenance for you. What is the role of maintenance on the operational excellence journey? Well, we see the 5 main roles. There's other things like help do capital project work, etc. But the main one is support production to achieve the production plan, so respond to anything that needs to be done. Achieve and enhance the maintenance plan for preventive work and predictive work, and you need a certain skill set for that. Achieve the maintenance plan for corrective and minor improvement work, and again, we'll talk about virtually computer literacy, be able to enter information into a computer, pull information out of a computer, whether it be a maintenance management system or whatever system you're using. And in this day and age, even for 2, inspection monitoring, a lot of that now done with PDAs and other devices for collecting information. Number 4, support production to formally improve the way they achieve the production plans through TPM and lean by supporting cross-functional teams. So you want them to be members of cross-functional teams, only one per cycle. And when you establish production area-based team improvement activities like what we call work area management, operator equipment management, they've got to be allocated to a team and supported and go along to the clean for inspections, for example. And then the maintenance have to improve the way they do things. So they've got to get their maintenance excellence going, right? And that means learning how to be effective at process improvement skills. So there's a lot of skills that we need to develop in our maintenance people, again, to get them to get buy-in. If they see we are developing the skills, you get the buy-in of the people. It's been the big learning. So just to sum up a bit, operational excellence must be led by the site leadership team, recognising that adults learn through education, demonstration, doing, and reflection. So we have a site leadership team, but if you want to go down the operational excellence path, or TPM and lean, hey, site leadership team, you've got to lead this from an improvement perspective and we recommend weekly meeting to review progress and provide good guidance. So hence the site leadership team members need to demonstrate how an effective improvement team operates. So they've got to be the model team, right? Have a notice board and show people how they have tasks, allocate tasks and track history, etc. And they need to walk the talk, recognising people look at the symbols rather than listen to the talk or read the announcements. So it's all very well managers getting out there and saying to people, hey, this is good, we've all got to do it. We all look for the symbols. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, never underestimate the importance of symbols in the workplace. A very simple example of a symbol is something that people see it, right? And then from that, they take their perceptions. So a notice board and scoreboards are a great example. If they are up to date or not. If they're not up to date, people start saying, well, hang on, what's the point? How important is it? This is a little exercise for you to do. Walk out into their factory or workplace and just have a look around the notice boards and see, are they all up to date? Is everything up there to date? Has everything got a date on it? Is when it was put up there. Are they to an agreed standard? In other words, is everything in an orderly, structured way, or do people just put stuff up there higgly-piggly? And is all the information up there really easy to read from 1 or 2 meters away? If not, what are you What are you demonstrating to people? Standards aren't important. Doesn't matter if you just get the thing done. It doesn't matter what standard you follow, etc. It's an interesting one, that's why, you know, again, things like 5S, etc. Or work area management, it's all based on having standards and people following standards, and you want people to follow standards, do things in a structured way. But if your symbols give a different message, you're not going to get much buy-in from your people. They're going to become very cynical. So final word, unless the focus of your organizational improvement journey is on the ongoing development of all your people in a structured and disciplined way through both cross-functional and area-based teams, your quest to achieve and sustain operational excellence will become a dream rather than a reality. Hopefully you found that of some interest. We're up for our 30 minutes. So how can we help? I mentioned that little booklet that we updated just recently for one of our clients. That's available from our webpage. If you're in New South Wales and you want to go down an improvement journey or get involved in formal improvement, New South Wales funding, it's just been reinitiated for another 12 months. So there's money out there to help you do it, and it will cover 80–90% of the cost for you. And finally, if there's any questions, happy to take questions either now, or if you want to send me an email or give me a call, more than happy to talk to anyone about anything that we've covered today or any other issues associated with your operational excellence journey. And thank you for being part of it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ross. So as Ross said, if anyone has any questions, please you can press the raise your hand button now or type in your question in the control panel box, and Ross will be happy to answer those questions. And while we wait for those questions, I just want to remind everyone that a recording of this webinar will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel later this afternoon, so please feel free to share with your colleagues. And the link will be provided in a follow-up email to you later today. It doesn't seem like we have any questions. We'll wait a little bit longer. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it for today. But if you have any further questions on today's session, feel free to contact us at any time, and you can email Ross or give the office a call. And on behalf of everyone at CTPM, thank you for attending, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.